The sterile quiet of the hospital room was interrupted only by the soft, constant beep of the heart monitor. Steffi sat at Liam's bedside, her fingers wrapped around his limp hand. He was pale, too pale, and the bandage on his temple was a brutal reminder of the accident that had changed everything. Just 3 days ago, he had collapsed at the Forrester office, mid-conversation, mid-sentence, mid-life. At first, they thought it was exhaustion, stress, but the MRI revealed the truth: a cerebral aneurysm, a ticking time bomb in Liam Spencer's brain. Dr. Grace Buckingham, who had recently returned to Los Angeles to restart her surgical career, was the only neurosurgeon willing to operate. "It's risky," she had said, "but not impossible." Steffi had nearly broken down at the words. Now, as nurses wheeled Liam's bed toward the operating room, Grace walked beside them, calm, focused, determined. "Dr. Buckingham," Steffi called out, "promise me you'll bring him back." Grace paused. Her eyes softened. "I don't make promises lightly, Steffi," she said, "but I will do everything in my power." And with that, Liam was wheeled into the OR. The lights above were blinding, cold, unforgiving. Dr. Grace Buckingham stood at the head of the table, her gloved hands poised, her team alert and ready. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and electricity, a sharp contrast to the thunderstorm building inside her. Liam's vitals were stable. "Let's begin," she said, her voice steady. The moment the scalpel touched his skin, the outside world disappeared. There was no ridge, no hope, no Steffi, no tangled history. Just her and the delicate tissue of a man's brain, and the hope that her hands would make history tonight. It was a race against time and against fate. While the operation stretched into its second hour, the waiting room filled with ghosts of Liam's past. Hope Logan stood next to Steffi, the tension between them momentarily buried beneath shared fear. "I can't lose him," Hope whispered. Steffi didn't argue. She couldn't. Across the room, Bill Spencer paced like a caged lion, his usual bravado replaced by a raw, unfamiliar vulnerability. "My son is in there," he muttered. "My son, and I can't do a damn thing." Brooke stood silently at the window, her hand gripping ridges. Even Thomas, distant and wary, stood by the coffee machine, offering comfort in his own quiet way. For once, the Forrester and Logan families were united. By blood, by fear, and by the fragile thread of hope that hung on Grace's scalpel. Inside the OR, the aneurysm had ruptured. Alarm screamed. "He's crashing!" a nurse shouted. "Clamp! Suction!" Grace barked. Her hands moved with supernatural precision, every muscle in her body burning with adrenaline. This was the moment, the one that defined careers, the one that could end lives. The rupture was worse than anticipated. Hidden behind a tangle of arterial branches. Most surgeons would have backed out, declared it inoperable, but Grace was not most surgeons. She worked faster, sharper, her brain mapping skills guiding her like a whisper from the divine. And then, silence. "Vitals stabilizing," said the anesthesiologist. Pressure dropping. Back to safe levels. The bleeding had stopped. The aneurysm was clamped. The repair successful. Grace slowly lowered her tools, heart pounding. "It's done," she said. Liam's eyes fluttered open, the light too bright, the world too quiet. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then the pain set in, a dull, burning throb in the center of his skull. "Easy," said a voice, a familiar one. "Grace, you're in recovery," she said gently, "and you're going to be okay." Liam blinked. "I made it?" "You did." He looked up at her, tears gathering at the edges of his eyes. "You saved my life." Grace nodded. "We saved it together." The door to the OR burst open and a wave of emotion crashed through the corridor. Steffi saw Grace first, her surgical mask pulled down, her eyes bright. "He's going to be fine," she said. Steffi collapsed into Hope's arms, sobbing. Bill didn't wait. He rushed down the hall, demanding to see his son. But Grace motioned for calm. "Give him a moment. He's awake. He's tired. But he wants to see you." Then, like something out of a dream, the door swung open again, and this time, Grace wheeled Liam out herself. No nurse, no assistant, just her and him, alive. The hall erupted in applause, not just from family, but from hospital staff, patients, nurses, even janitors who'd stopped to witness the miracle. Liam turned his head weakly. Steffi? She was already there. Then Hope. Then Bill. He reached for them all. Tears streamed down Grace's cheeks, unnoticed, as the weight of what she had done settled into her bones. She had saved a man's life. She had saved Liam Spencer. News spread. Quickly, Spencer Publications ran a cover story. Against all odds, Liam Spencer survives fatal brain trauma. Forrester Creations held a runway tribute in his honor, with Thomas unveiling a surprise design called Revival. Even Deacon Sharp sent flowers. At the hospital, Grace was offered a permanent position as chief of neurosurgery. She declined. "I didn't come back for glory," she said. "I came back to heal." But perhaps the biggest ripple was in the heart of the man who had lived. Liam looked at his life differently now. The petty squabbles, the love triangles, the jealousy and pain. It all seemed small. He asked for a second chance, not just at life, but at living. Weeks passed. Liam's strength returned slowly but surely. He began therapy. He started volunteering at the very hospital that had saved him. One afternoon, he invited both Hope and Steffi to meet him at the bluff, where his accident had happened. "I don't know what the future holds," he said, "but I know I'm done letting the past define me." Hope nodded. "You don't have to choose between us anymore," Steffi smiled softly. "We just want you to be happy." Liam looked out at the ocean. "I think I'm going to focus on being a father," he said, "on being whole, on being here." And for once, both women agreed. Grace stood by the nurse's station, her bags packed. Paris was calling. Doctors Without Borders had offered her a position in the Congo. She was ready. Liam caught her just before she left. "I never got to say thank you," he said. She smiled. "You don't have to. You gave me something too." "What's that?" "Purpose?" He reached for her hand. "You gave me my life back." Grace nodded, then turned toward the elevator. As the doors closed behind her, Liam stood in the hallway, taller, stronger, alive, a man with a second chance.